Okay, fourth page, last page. Okay, these two here, number 12 and number 13. Now remember, these are already factored out. Usually we'd have to do the box to get to this point. We'd have to factor it out, but we don't. So we pretty much have saved ourselves those first steps, and we only have one step to go to get to our solution. So remember, you're not multiplying this out, because some of you guys are thinking, oh, do I multiply it now? Do I set up the box? No, you're going to go straight to your solution from here. Now remember, if I have 2x here, or a number with x, anywhere you see x, you're trying to figure out where does this make, what number is going to make this equal 0? Okay, that's the solution. So here, what number times 2 equals 0? I would put 0, because 0 times 2 is 0. Okay, then I go to the next x. What number plus 3 is equal to 0? Okay, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. Okay, and then I go here, what number minus 5 is 0? Well, 5 minus 5 is 0. Okay, and that's our answer. It's that easy. You don't have to do anything except just go straight from here to your solution. Okay, now if we go over this next one, it's a little different. The only thing is that there's a couple things that are different. So first of all, if you look at this number in the front, this has no x on it. This does have x on it. And again, like I told you, you're only getting your solutions from wherever there is an x term. So there's no 0 coming from here. All right, so we don't start there. We start here. So what number plus 11 equals 0? Well, negative 11 equals 0. But here's the problem. If I plug negative 11 in there and multiply this 2, it won't equal 0 anymore. So here's the shortcut. First of all, I want to know what's going to make it 0. So I could, well, I'm not showing you the shortcut first. I could take this whole thing and make it equal 0 and solve for it. So I moved 11 over here. That becomes negative. Okay, and then the last step is divide 2 on both sides. And that's your answer, negative 11 over 2. Okay, I can do the same here. Or there's a shortcut. If you notice, that same 11 ended up here on top. That same 2 ended up here in the bottom of the denominator. And if it's plus, it's negative. Just like over here, if it's plus, it's negative. If it's negative, it's positive. So you're doing the opposite sign. Okay, so here, the shortcut again is the second number goes on top, the first number goes on the bottom. If it's negative, it's positive, so I don't have to change that. Okay? Last problem on the test, or on the test review. Okay, so the first one here, a couple different ways we can look at this. Okay, first, I know I have two terms, and they both have x, so GCF, boom. What number will you divide? Well, then remember this one's 1, so you're thinking what number divides into 1 and 4? Well, only 1, so that's not really a common factor. We don't use that, okay? But so we look at the x, and they both have x, so we'll divide x. X goes outside, do your parentheses. Okay, if you have x2 over x, you have 1x. And then you bring down the sign, negative 4, okay, for the negative. And then remember, this is a 1 here, so we're doing 4 divided by 1, which is 4. And if it's 1x over 1x, then we have no x's left. And again, just like the last problem we did, look in the front. What number, again, there's a 1 here. What number times 1 is equal to 0? 0. So x equals 0 for your first answer. So anytime you have parentheses, and there is an x outside by itself, or with just a number, you know your answer is going to be 0. Okay? And then again here, what number minus 4 is equal to 0? 4. So there's your solution for the second one. Okay? Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try the box and see if I can find a solution for that. And if that doesn't work, then I'll probably go to quadratic formula. Okay, because I've got 3 terms, 2 and 2 x's, so that means I can it's a trinomial. Okay, so first let's try the box. So first number, first box, last number, last box. These two multiply. 7x squared times 1 is just 7x squared. Two numbers multiply to 7, but then equal, also add up or subtract to negative 5. Okay, so the only numbers that multiply to 7 is 1 and 7 because it's a prime number. There's no way that I can add or subtract those two numbers to get negative 5. So this isn't going to work. So guess what? Quadratic formula. Okay? So go ahead and erase this. Identify A, B, C. A is 7, B is -5, C is +1. Set up your formula, 1 times -5. Okay, -5 squared. And remember, when you're doing this in the calculator, make sure you put parentheses around everything you plug in. Okay? Because if you don't put parentheses around that B right there, if it's negative, it will give you an error. It will mess up most of the time. Okay? -4, remember 4 is always the same. Then times our A, which is 7. Okay? Then times our C, which is 1. All of that over 2 times A, which is 7. Okay? So now I'm going to stop there. We're going to work this out in the calculator. Okay, just like before, that was our answer from the last problem. Just like before, we want to hit the box first. Okay, get the fraction. Okay, now what I'm going to do is write everything on the top. So hopefully you wrote it down or you just remember what we had. But first thing was -1, then parentheses, 5. And again, I'm typing in exactly how it was the way I wrote it. And remember, the first time you do this, you're going to do plus or minus. Excuse me. Okay, so plus or minus. Then I'm going to get the square root, and I can do that by clicking the box here. There's my square root. Okay, now parentheses, -5 squared. This is very important. Put parentheses around that number right there. Okay, and then -4 parentheses or times 7. Then parentheses times 1. And then the last thing is on the bottom. It was 2 times 7. 2 parentheses 7. And there's, it didn't like that. Let's see why. Well, if you look right there in the front, I accidentally typed like a dot or something, so I just need to erase that. Nope, didn't like that either. See, this is what can happen sometimes, so we need to figure out what is going on. So if I go back across, what I notice is that I forgot a negative here. Maybe that's my problem. Nope, didn't like that either. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the board and we'll see what's going on. Let's work this out by hand and see what the problem is. So -1 times 5, +5. Okay, -5 squared is 25. Okay, the -4 times 7 is -28, times 1, still -28. Ah, there's our problem. 25 minus 28 is -3. 2 times 7, 14. That's the big problem right there. What did I say we cannot have in the square root? A negative number. So what's the answer? At that point, no real solution. And then you're done. You're like, I aced this test. Whoop.